Preston, Holland.
Hey, Kaylee, it's good to be here.
Good to be here. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year. Do you have any good resolutions for this year?
You know, just be better every day. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a daily thing at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. I am trying to fly more this year. That is my goal. I didn't fly much at the end of this last year, so that's my goal, is to get up in the air more.
There you go. I think that I'm going to put that on my list too. Maybe get in an airplane this year. That's number one.
There we go.
We got a good show on the way today. Of course, we got Chris Stump and Anthony Penn's joining us from Foxtrot Aviation. Tyler Holt will join us as well to talk about the current and expected conditions in the business air market. But first, Preston, Southwest Airlines was kind of the center of drama over holiday travel season.
Yeah, we had a lot of stories coming out of Southwest. I think that I have had more DMs on Twitter from major media asking for some comments from us on what exactly it is going on. Everybody was talking about it. You've had a lot of people stranded, and there was actually some pilots that had an interesting opinion here, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later with Jonathan Welch from our team. But antiquated systems plus a unique distribution model instead of the hub and spoke model, kind of having point to point, led to a disaster that happened right around the Christmas holiday. So we're going to bring in Jonathan Welch here. Jonathan is the senior travel editor for Flying Magazine, flyingmag.com. Jonathan, thanks for being here with us.
Oh, hello. It's a pleasure. Happy to join you.
Thanks for being here. And fortunately, I did not travel for the holidays, so I was not stuck in that mess. But for a lot of Americans, it was a disaster, kind of starting off with literally the perfect storm, right? We had a massive weather system impact some really major air hubs across the country. And then the dominoes just kept falling for Southwest Airlines. What happened overall?
Right. Well, you have this weather coming in at the busiest possible time, and one of the places where it was really bad in Denver is it's not a hub because Southwest doesn't have hubs, but it is a busy airport for them. So it just sort of rippled from there. And now the interesting thing is that pilots and other employees differ quite a bit with the company as far as what caused the problem. The employees will tell you that problems with inadequate staffing and the antiquated scheduling system that we've heard a lot about were pretty much to blame, while the company will say it was more the weather that, this sort of one-time act of God situation that really hurt them. But it's been pretty well known through the industry that they've had meltdowns like this in the past. They've never been quite this bad. And each time what some of the pilots have told me, both on, one-to-one and through their pilots union, is that they've been warning the company for decades now about some of these problems. And they say that the company has ignored them, and that's what led to the problems over the holidays. They keep referring to the scheduling system called SkySolver as being like the pinnacle of mid-90s technology. So that kind of sets the tone.
So, Jonathan, we were talking a little bit earlier about some of the ways that they could have solved this, some of the ways that other airlines have solved for this problem. Obviously, Southwest was the only one who was affected. So what are some of the things that they need to address immediately, whether it's systems or whether it's processes or if it's employees? What do they need to address right now?
Well, I think revamping their scheduling software is a big thing, because that's having crews in place to take over flights, at a moment's notice is that's the sort of precision they rely on. Another, now I'm sure a lot of other airlines will say, I told you so, you should have gone to a hub and spoke system a long time ago. And there's something to be said for that, because with with the hub and spoke, they will say that having a hub is like having a home. You go from the hub out to the destination and back, and that can be great for pilots and other crew members. It helps them, organize their time, and it helps everyone organize the airline's movements a bit better. But it's costly, and Southwest has always been known for saving money, and this is one of the ways they've done it, just by going point to point, one destination to the next to the next. The problem with that really showed up during the holiday season was you get farther and farther away from where you started, for example, and where some of the crews have to get back to. You still have crews that are based in certain cities that they need to get back to before they kind of start a new cycle. And with the point-to-point system, you might be very far away from your home base when a problem like this strikes. And so they wound up with a lot of crews stranded. Now, if you're doing hub and spoke, there's the sense that you're never too far from home, and it's easier to bring people back in when problems like this happen. And I think the timing and the intensity of these weather problems over the holidays just really worked against the point-to-point arrangement, and it wasn't all that tough on the traditional hub and spoke. So just one of those things where the planets align against you.
So, Jonathan, talk to us about company culture at Southwest. Obviously, Southwest has been known it's been beloved by its employees for a really long time, and some of that sentiment seems to have changed. There have been some reports that have come out on social media that have directly called out some of the management and the way that they handled this. I know that the CEO took what some people called a lot too long to come out and make a public statement and to rectify the situation for passengers. Talk to us a little bit about the Southwest culture, the company culture. Where did it come from, and where is it at today?
Right. I think the key word about that you would come up with for Southwest culture is engagement. The executives, particularly the dearly departed and longtime CEO from, the early 80s up through 2004, a man named Herb Kelleher, who was part of the founding team of the airline, was the CEO. And he fostered this theme, really, that this was the fun airline. It was fun for passengers, fun for employees. It was kind of... Now, the airline started service in 1971, so you have to, as painful as it may be, you have to sort of transport yourself back to 1971 to get a sense for what fun meant. But it was kind of a party atmosphere, and passengers loved it. The employees loved it as well. And they just didn't have a lot of hard and fast rules. And one of the things that I remember Kelleher saying in an interview was that if somebody did something totally out of line and got in trouble for it, they would take that person aside and talk to them and say, okay, that's too much, you can't do that. But they wouldn't bring on an entire new policy saying, okay, now you have to wear a jacket and tie to work every day, that sort of thing. Like if someone shows up in a t-shirt and jeans, they get a talking to, right? But they still basically had, the dress code was casual Friday all the time. And that culture continued after Kelleher's retirement. That's about 20 years ago. But most people say it started to slowly fade. And part of the problem, they'll tell you, especially the pilots, is that Kelleher was, and the people who worked with him were operations people. They focused on, moving airplanes around, moving passengers. It was strictly an operations thing, where the folks who have run the company since then, and it's like this in a lot of industries, are more, came up through the finance ranks. They're more chief financial officer types who were promoted to to CEO. So they're always, they just, it's part of the culture to cut costs and kind of have this minimal staffing model that's works well as long as everything else is working well. But that was another that's been cited as another problem that made some of the difficulties worse over the holidays. And what I've seen, what employees have mentioned, and you see it all over social media, as you mentioned before, the question keeps coming up that they'll say, what happened to Southwest Airlines? They'll say this was a great place to work, and it's not the same anymore. And I've found that customers are saying the same thing. Even some passengers who I heard interviewed over the holidays, whose holiday vacations were completely ruined by these problems, they're still saying, well, we still love Southwest. We hope they can bounce back because we've been flying them for, decades in some cases. So there might be enough goodwill there to bring them through this. That's what's going to be interesting to watch, because their longtime customers are still, a lot of them anyway, are still pulling for Southwest.
So I think that takes us, kind of into our next segment, and we'd love to keep you around for just a few more minutes. As we talk about goodwill and we talk about, public sentiment, obviously stock price reflects this. And it seems as though this might just be a blip on Southwest's radar in the grand scheme of things when you look at their recovery. As soon as they started announcing their reparations and things that they were going to be doing for their passengers, it seems as though it popped back. I mean, stock traded down between 10 and 11% for about 3 days, and then it popped right back. So what does that goodwill have to do with the overall general market? Is the market telling us that Southwest is going to be just fine?
I think it is. I was watching the timeline as well. I believe it was the 30th when the announcement came from the company that they were returning to normal operations. And the sense I got from people I talked to was, well, we'll see how normal they are. But I think a combination of, of course, the weather relented things. Airlines are able to put operations back together pretty quickly when they fall apart. And, they came right out and said they're going to make their customers whole. And by the way, in the interim, it might take a little while to figure out because it's a lot of refunds they're talking about. So this program of, I believe it's 25,000 frequent flyer points I think the way I interpret it is it's their way of saying, here's, for starters, we'll give you these points, and then we'll get back to you on the reparations, but they're coming. And I think that in the past, this Southwest is always, it has this reputation as being true to its word as a corporation. So I think people are just standing by and figuring that it's going to work out. There really aren't, from the passenger's point of view, as well as the employee point of view. I think of the pilots who enjoy flying for this company because of the autonomy they have and the camaraderie they feel. There just aren't a lot of places where you can find those qualities anymore. So there's an incentive, an underlying incentive for them to stick it out and see if they can put it back together.
I think Southwest would tell you that it is LUV, love.
Yep, it's all about love.
Oh, all about love. Isn't that the greatest? When there was one of the social media posts that I saw when the guy referred to his love for the company, that it was one of the pilots. Of course, he spelled it LUV, and it's like, there you go. That's the culture. They never let it go.
Well, Jonathan, thank you for joining us to give us some perspective about this. We appreciate it. And if people want to find more of your content, where can they go to do that in Flying Magazine?
Oh, they can just look under my name there, or look under the travel destinations tab. The stories will pop up there. But if you reference my name, Jonathan Welsh, you'll find it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jonathan. We appreciate it, and we'll have you back, hopefully for better news when it comes to travel here on Business Air TV.
Terrific. Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes.
Leviate Air Group is a refreshing take on the business jet industry. We have divisions in air charter, aircraft sales, and aircraft management, so we've evolved into a full-service private aviation enterprise. Since our founding in 2014, we really set out to be an elite provider with modern and transparent business practices. What started as a charter sales group then included a fully dedicated whole aircraft sales staff, and then it was just a few short years after that, Leviate acquired and began to grow an FAA air carrier, and now we operate business jets all around the world. With aviation professionals holding 100% ownership in the company, we're a true one-stop shop for clients wanting to do anything in the private aviation space. We've actually been tagged as the most transparent private aviation company in the world.
When guests come to an event like F3, we know what they want is a chance to show off their products, their swag, and make new partnerships that will last until our next FreightWaves event.
But the problem is there are so many industry events, it can be so hard to find the right one to invest your time and energy in. We at FreightWaves take your investment seriously.
Which is why we've brought together thousands of industry professionals in one city over 3 days to showcase all you have to offer.
Because your successful connections at an event like F3 move all of us forward.
Don't believe us?
Join us in June.
It's a good day coming.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Business Air TV. We've got our next set of guests in and ready to go. We're excited to welcome Anthony Pence and Chris Stump from Foxtrot Aviation. Guys, thank you both for being here today.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Great to be here. Thanks for making time for us.
Guys, where are you joining us from?
Canton, Ohio.
Canton, Ohio. So talk to us a little bit about your business. I came across you guys a little bit in the media and then on LinkedIn. Wanted to ask you a little bit about your story, building a startup bootstrapped business in business aviation coming out of Ohio State. So tell us a little bit about your story. How'd you get your start at Foxtrot?
Well, our start started in 2010. Anthony's family was very heavily involved in general aviation, and he needed to make some money on the side as he was doing an unpaid internship. And so that sparked Foxtrot. Unbeknownst to anybody, it just kind of materialized over the years. He asked me to partner up. We've been long-term friends. We've known each other since kindergarten. And from there, it has just evolved to over 250 team members across the United States with over 20 locations, and we're continuing to grow.
So talk to us about the service that you guys provide and maybe how you got started and how that's evolved. There might be other founders that are listening to us today that are really not sure where they want to start. They love aviation, they want to start a business, but they're really not sure what to do. So walk us through the journey. You started, if I understand this correctly, you started in detailing airplanes and it has grown from there. So talk to us about that evolutionary journey for you.
Absolutely. And I guess the biggest thing that I'd give an answer to that question is start anywhere. My family had experience in general aviation. And so that's kind of where we started washing private and corporate aircraft. And that grew slowly over time. But the pandemic and some previously held partnerships led us into the 121 air carrier world. And so that's really our three main pillars of service right now. We still do a lot of private and corporate aircraft detailing, but we also clean a lot of 121 air carriers. We do some pretty significant janitorial work too, with a focus on airport properties. That's really where we keep our core competency regarding the janitorial pillar.
I mean, you can start anywhere. Like at the end of the day, if we didn't have our parents to kind of give us that lift to, be there to wash our rags, to be there to support us, Foxtrot wouldn't exist today. I lived at home for a long time before I was able to go out on my own, and that's the only way Foxtrot has been able to survive so long.
I love this idea, right? Because like at the end of the day, aviation is cool. We want it to look good. We want it to be flashy, but sometimes there's not a lot of thought that goes into the process about making it look good, keeping it nice and pretty and flashy. And the work that you guys do is really a core part of that. Talk to us a little bit about kind of establishing some of these partnerships with those FBOs and some of these places where you're really getting into that nitty-gritty detailing work. How do you go out and find the customers, the clientele, establish those relationships, and then really tailor the offering to what they're looking for?
That's a great question. And I'll key off the first part and let Anthony kind of follow, is you have to have the reputation in order to be let in the door. So your work needs to stand out and it needs to have a reputation for itself. And that was a lot of sleepless nights for myself and Anthony, is going out and proving that Foxtrot delivers value. And it's super exciting that once that reputation continues to build, it's like a tidal wave. And when you go in, you have legitimacy to a lot of folks in all three spaces. And that legitimacy gives you a foot in the door. And it's taking jobs that you might not make money on. It's taking jobs in the middle of the night. It's going the extra mile and giving your client the 360 point of view of everything you're doing, give them the good, the bad, the indifferent, not just what you want to sell them, but what they need.
That's absolutely right. And speaking to that, it's one of the advantages for an entrepreneur in the aviation space is that it's such a tight network community, even amongst the airlines, that if you prove yourself in the beginning, you'll have lots of subsequent opportunities that come about due to your hard work, and it will get recognized. Now, that doesn't say that it's going to be an easy path. I mean, we struggled for, I'd say, 9 years before we got some of the opportunities that have let us scale to where we are now. So it's about putting in the time and effort, but it's a networked space where you can get ahead. It's definitely an opportunity for anyone looking to start a business.
And we wouldn't be anywhere without our partners. If our partners were not there hand in hand with us, Foxtrot would not exist. And it's those close-knit partnerships that we stress, that we want to go ahead and be transparent as possible to showcase our value, that keeps us where we're at and allows us the ability to continue to grow.
Anthony, Chris, you guys are bootstrapped founders. There's kind of two camps of this world, right? There's venture-backed, where you can spend as much money as you possibly want. We see a lot of that in the eVTOL space. And then there's the bootstrap founders who have to make conscious decisions with every dollar that comes into the business, where they're gonna invest that. How do you think about making the next investment, whether it's opening a new location, maybe it's doing some marketing to get your name out there, it's going to an event like MBAA or one of the regionals? How do you think about investing that next dollar to help grow your business? Because it's not unlimited money that you can just go out there and grow at all costs. You have to actually have sustainable growth. How do you think about what's the next investment that you're going to make when you think about, what's next for you next month, next quarter, next year?
Great question. And it speaks somewhat to our partnership. I'm kind of on the CFO side of the house, and Chris is very much on the marketing and growth and development side of the house. And that tension that we naturally share helps us kind of split the middle in terms of answering your question. I think in the last 3 years in particular, we've really tried to focus our growth on opportunities that will be profitable from the rip. And cash flow is really important. Negotiating your terms with your clients and ensuring that continues, because again, most of my clients are on a net 30 basis. My main expense is my payroll. That's on a net 14 basis. So that means every time we expand, we have to float that payroll. So being profitable is really important. Even if you are self-funded, establishing good banking relationships in the community is important early. And the nature of banks is if you need the money, usually they won't give it to you. But having those relationships is important down the road, because you'll have multiple avenues to pursue the best possible credit facilities at the best possible rates for your organization. So I think moving forward, the best way that I can answer your question is we pursue opportunities that are profitable, and we also sell across multiple verticals with each client. So we're trying to offer the facility cleaning for our private and corporate aircraft cleaning clients, as well as our commercial cleaning clients, wherever it makes sense for them.
And additional to that is Foxtrot is a proud member of MBAA and has attended the maintenance conference, the annual MBAA conference, and will be going back again as well. And those conferences allow us to network, to give us those opportunities. Also, we go to MRO Americas on the 121 side. They just open doors as you're just walking through the exhibit center, and you notice a name tag, and you do a little quick LinkedIn kind of look up and say, wow, that person's connected. You go and start a conversation, because a conversation never hurt anybody. And that's how Foxtrot really bootstrapped in the beginning. Is we just went to FBOs, we went to 91 operators without any recognition, and just made an introduction, and they believed in us. And that has continued on through our growth and development at Foxtrot. Is a conversation never hurt anybody, and the worst that somebody can tell you is no, and that just to me means keep trying.
So last question for you guys. We're in a time right now where skilled aircraft technicians are in super high demand. What do the employment opportunities and the options to work with you guys look like right now?
So we've got employment openings across our company, as well as at the corporate office. In terms of us locating the correct technicians, I think being competitive and doing appropriate labor analysis in whatever city market that we're in is really important. But then number two, one of the things that we've really been working on over the last year and a half is an in-house management training program that we believe is top of the mark in terms of service providers in the industry. And just because we don't need certificated folks, we believe that providing the training for those soft skills really gives us a huge edge. It's something that I would argue a lot of college degrees won't give you. It's one of those things where let's try to put lightning in a bottle in terms of really passing on the things that we've learned in our last 12 years so that our folks are set up for success moving forward.
A lot of our management staff currently has had the grassroots from the bottom to the top movement. And it's super exciting, because one of the things, being a small business, we want to provide opportunities. We understand that the labor market's tight. But one thing we can offer that a lot of folks cannot is mobility upwards, vertical mobility for anyone that is willing to put in the hard work, dedication, and time that it takes. A lot of folks who come in, they come in and they want to see everything happen instantaneously. It takes time to develop. I related back to the minor leagues. You put a minor league pitcher up to the major leagues too soon, and he blows out his arm, then he's not going to add value to you. It's about being able to grow our culture. It's being able to give the right opportunity to the right person in the right seat. And Foxtrot has that. Just think about this. Last year at this very time, we only had 125 team members with us. We have 250. What does that tell you? That means growth is there. That means positions that we don't even know about are there. Anthony and I are going into strategic meetings, thinking, dreaming up of what we're going to do and grow, and the positions we're going to need, the infrastructure from team members to IT to an operating system. It's all being thought of right now. So as we grow, we're not going to be stunted. We're going to have every angle covered. And that is very exciting for Foxtrot, is to afford those opportunities to folks that come work with us, that believe in Foxtrot, that believe in the value, believe in our core values, to reward them with positions in growth and mobility.
Chris, Anthony, I know that there's a lot of people that are cheering you guys on as young founders in aviation and trying to change up the game. 100% employee headcount growth, that's something really impressive, so congratulations on that. I know Kaylee said she had the final question, but I'm going to ask one final fun question. You're both love airplanes. What is the greatest airplane of all time?
Oh, I mean, one that's attainable or one to just period of all time?
Period of all time.
You have to understand that Anthony, when he was at Ohio State, got #2 in the nation of aircraft recognition. So he might pull a rabbit out of a hat here.
Listen, I have loved the Lancer 4 turbine for years and years now. I want that airplane like nobody's business. So that's my answer for sure.
I would have to say that if I could have a dream corporate jet, it would be something around a Falcon 900. You know, it can give you the distance. It got the 3 engines, safety's there. I don't know what else is needed. You know, if I can have a Falcon 900, life is good.
Chris, I'm with you. I am a huge fan of the Falcon series. I love the triple engine. It's kind of controversial, but I am a fan of it. Okay, and then one more piggyback off of that. The Piaggio Avanti, yay or nay?
Love it. Why not?
Love it?
I mean, I love catfish.
Listen, as purely the finance guy, you've got the operating economics, but then you've got paying for the landing gear overhaul. So you kind of got two sides of the coin. I'm going to stick it on the 50-yard line and say I'm not going to commit to positive or negative.
All I'm going to say is that whether it's the Piaggio or it's the Falcon, I hope either one of us gets it. We get the other one a ride. That's all I'm asking.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll come pick you up there in Ohio from here in Chattanooga. So listen, with the next time that you double head count, we'll have to have you on Business Air TV again, and we'll report on the success. Congratulations, fellas, and we will see you guys soon.
Wonderful. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, so much. You're bringing back the Piaggio again?
I know. Listen.
I thought we were over this.
No, I am never over it. It is a fantastic performance aircraft. But like we mentioned, it looks like a catfish. So it depends on the person.
It's a very expensive catfish.
You know what it can do? It can go really high. It can get over weather, which is a nice transition into our next segment with Dr. Scott Dennsteadt.
Hey, thanks, guys. Yes, there is a major weather system we can talk about. The weather system that's in the eastern U.S. is finally making its way off the coast, and the main area of low pressure is dissipating in the Great Lakes region. But the feature we're going to discuss today is the weather in the West Coast, especially in the north and central area of California, where we could see significant flooding rains and some low-top convection. Overall, there's an atmospheric river moving in, and that's bringing in some heavy snow rates above 3 inches per hour in some regions, above 5,000 feet, and really some dangerous travel conditions in that area as well. So let's take a look and see what's happening and causing this weather to occur. So the best thing to do is start at the prog charts and take a look at the overall surface depiction here. And you can see here we got a fairly long area of frontal system occurring all the way through parts of California, but really heavy rain and the possibility of even some low-top convection in that region. And all that interesting weather essentially is going to produce some of the heavy rain and the larger amounts of snowfall, and especially in the mountainous regions. And that's going to lead to flooding and the possibility of even mud and rock slides in many of those areas, especially in the Sacramento Valley and along the coastal regions of California. And if we look at the cause of that, we can go up to 500 millibars, which is roughly 18,000 feet, and see the overall kind of flow of what's happening up there. And you can see there's an upper level trough here that's moving into the California region. Again, that's some upper level support, some vertical ascent in a very large scale. And that's, again, driving some of that weather that we see in California for today. We expect that to continue throughout the day today and certainly into the overnight hours. It's going to be a little reprieve as we'll look into the weather for tomorrow. But if we look at the overall convective outlooks for today, mainly across the entire U.S., not a problem except for here with that frontal system in Florida. But the main core is over here in California and parts of Nevada for the day today. We look at the overall composite reflectivity, the next rad depiction. What we can see for the most part, what we're dealing with here is a fairly significant amount of rainfall occurring right now in parts of the Bay Area all the way up into Sacramento, as well as down even into parts of LA and down into San Diego for the moment. Overall, other than that, some thunderstorms moving through Florida. You can see that on the convective outlooks and convective segments occurring today. Again, there's a turbulent segment for some severe turbulence, some surface to 16,000 feet. And there's our low top convection occurring today, and maybe some convection here occurring in Florida. Well, a little later in the show, we'll look at the evolution of this weather system out in the West Coast and possibly a second round of heavy rain through the latter part of the weekend in this region. So stay tuned for that, and back to you in the studio.
Dr. Dennsteadt. Right now we're going to take a look at our top headlines on flyingmag.com. President Joe Biden has renominated Philip Washington to fill the administrator role of the Federal Aviation Administration after months of stalled-out Senate proceedings. The nomination was originally made last July to fill Stephen Dixon's role after Dixon abruptly announced his retirement last February. Billy Nolan has served as acting administrator since April of last year in his place. Washington has previously served as CEO of Denver International Airport, but he has never been a pilot, an industry exec, or a U.S. Air Force official. Archer Aviation says that it has entered into an agreement with international car maker Stellantis to set up manufacturing facilities for mass production of the Archer Midnight eVTOL aircraft in 2024. The announcement could push forward widespread adoption of eVTOL use as it outlines a concrete plan for mass manufacturing. Stellantis will help Archer prepare its facility in Covington, Georgia, to begin turning out the Midnight aircraft, which is a development on the company's prototype called the Maker. Midnight is expected to be able to carry a pilot and 4 passengers over a range up to 100 miles. And Innovative Solutions and Support has announced it has gained FAA approval for its ThrustSense auto throttle for Beechcraft King Air 200 and 300 models, equipped with the Garmin G1000 standard flight deck. The ThrustSense serves as an active co-pilot through most phases of flight, adjusts engine inputs to ensure airspeed, and add protection from takeoff to touchdown. And you can find those headlines by heading on over to flyingmag.com. While you're there, give a subscribe to get updates sent directly to you. Maybe enter into a giveaway or two as well. We'll talk to Preston Holland about that later on. Make sure you give us a follow on social media. Also, you can find us pretty much anywhere that you get your social media content. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Leviate Air Group is pleased to bring to market this class-leading Bombardier Challenger 300, serial number 20027. Meticulously maintained and with both exterior and interior fully refurbished in 2012, this Challenger is truly a turnkey aircraft. Your in-flight experience and productivity will be dramatically enhanced by the GoGo Biz ATG 5000 Wi-Fi. Now, sit back and relax as we present to you this magnificent Challenger 300.
Preston, welcome back. We are getting into our social high flyer segment. Maybe we should call this one social no flyer because, we're sticking on the thread of Southwest. You love a good meme, and the internet was full of them 2 weeks ago.
I do love a good meme. I love a good baby video on TikTok, which is currently my feed, as I always laugh at them, the chunky fat babies, or a good meme. So this is one of those for sure. And this is pretty funny. Kaylee found this one on Twitter. So talk to us about this meme.
So you're poking fun at Southwest, obviously, right? It says, after system reset, Southwest Airlines unveils a new streamlined route network. Just in intra-Texas route, it looks like Dallas to Austin, Austin to College station to Houston to Beaumont. I don't know. It's kind of far away from here. But basically an intra-Texas route for Southwest, a triangle route and one little spoke. What do you think? More efficient?
It would definitely be more efficient. It actually looks a lot like the JSX map, which is a totally different type of flyer, but very similar. I actually got to fly over Love Field in a Carbon Cub. I got to fly with my friend Bill, and he took me over there. We actually got to fly and see all of the blue planes, and you don't really get a huge appreciation for it, how much Southwest dominates Love Field until you fly over it, and it is blue as far as you can see.
Yeah.
And as we were flying over, it's pretty cool. We were at about 5,000 feet, so we were out of the way of traffic, and watching the Southwest planes land below us and take off was really cool. And then the controller said, "Get out of here." So it was a lot of fun. We got to do a little bit of backcountry flying that day, and it was a great experience. But it seems like Southwest is back on the up and up. I think that. I think they'll recover from this. Their stock price has already recovered.
Yeah.
It seems like they have got the love of the people again. I personally love flying Southwest. The problem is that I have to drive to Atlanta
or Nashville,
and I really don't like driving to Nashville from here in Chattanooga, so I end up being pretty Delta loyal.
Yeah. Have you flown into or out of Love Field before on Southwest?
I have not, no.
Okay, so it's really cool. So it's right down there, downtown Dallas.
Right.
And to most of their ins and outs, if you're flying north, you obviously don't get the city view, but if you're taking off going south, or if you're landing going south, you fly right by the buildings of downtown Dallas. So a lot of their pilot force is made up of pilots who previously flew in the military, who have military service. And for a while, that was a requirement to fly for Southwest, because you had to be able to maneuver in and out of buildings in a bigger jet if you flew for Southwest to be able to land at Love Field.
That's really cool. That is awesome. Very cool. So anywho, so I think what we need to do is we need to look at the weather. Talking again about Southwest, it has been very relevant here. To be on top of the weather, be aware. Southwest obviously was not as aware of the weather as they should have been. So maybe Dr. Scott can talk to us about what exactly it was that happened. Was it the ice on the runway, or was it the ice in the air? I don't know. Maybe we can ask Dr. Scott after his next weather update.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Yeah, so we are definitely in the middle of a transition period here for the weekend. So Friday, I think for the most part, should be pretty decent. The atmospheric river is going to let up a little bit. And we just had this troublesome kind of upper level trough that's sticking around in the eastern U.S. that's going to basically produce a little bit of snow and mixed precipitation in the area. But when we head into parts of Saturday, that atmospheric river is back. So expect more flooding, rains, and especially in Northern California. And that's really all going to be part of, again, an upper level weather system that is tracking through that region. So it's sort of a double whammy here. So we'll get a break on Friday, but when we get into Saturday, and we'll see that next major weather system kind of building in behind that. And that's going to produce weather on Saturday into Sunday in a good portion of the coastal regions of Northern California up into Oregon and Washington. So, go ahead and kind of expect and anticipate that. And we can look at even up higher level at the 300 millibar level. It's roughly 30,000 feet where we'll be able to see those really strong winds aloft coming in behind this. So you can see this color that you see here on the very far left side. That's really strong winds aloft, 130 to 150 knots. And that's essentially just a river of moisture that's constantly going to be barraging the western U.S. for several days. And it's even going to be into early Monday and Tuesday where we'll see that river kind of continue to take shape. So without a doubt, over the next few days, you're definitely going to be seeing some transitional weather, but it's going to be for the most part, pretty problematic through the western U.S. For the foreseeable future here. And overall, when you're looking at the convective outlooks from this standpoint to see what's happening over the next couple of days, again, if we look at further in the picture here, we're seeing no thunderstorms forecast at all across the area. Again, Friday is going to be a nice calm day from that standpoint. But we're going to eventually see some of those kind of convection return to the central and northern California area, and as well as another weather system kind of taking shape down in the southern plains and the lower Mississippi Valley in that area there. And then for any kind of weather updates throughout the week, Tuesday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, you can check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@EZWX Brief. Well, that's the weekend outlook, and back to you in the studio.
All right, Dr. Scott, thank you for that update. Tricky situation in California this weekend. Definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. Preston, we're going to go ahead and welcome in our last live guest of the day.
Yeah, so Tyler and I connected on LinkedIn. I had a post that I made about the Bullwhip Effect. We've been talking a lot, as we talked about market updates and things, been talking a lot about supply chain, the Bullwhip Effect, what it's going to mean for OEMs, what it's going to mean for the secondary market. And Tyler had some opinions, wanted to come on and share some. So we're going to welcome Tyler Holt on. Tyler, welcome to Business Air TV.
Thanks for having me on.
So let's talk about this this post, and I think the guys in the studio have this graphic ready to get pulled up. But we talked about the Bullwhip Effect, right? So if you consider the Bullwhip Effect, you have undersupply, and then you have oversupply, and it creates kind of this ripple throughout the economy. So we've got it showing on the screen here. A lot of people are saying that we're here, right, where demand has now bottomed out and the supply is about to over-index. So walk us through what you think. You had a bit of a different take that we've already gone through this. We're already in a bit of a general aviation recession. So walk us through what you're seeing.
Certainly, yeah. If you look at like aircraft inventory, jets specifically, that's mainly what we deal in. This has already happened back in, say, late spring or early summer. So inventory has already risen about 25% from July. And prices, if you overlay it on the same graph, you can see the prices are already starting to barrel over and trend downward. And meanwhile, inventory is rising. Some of the inventory is probably just sellers trying to take advantage of high prices. So that may be a little bit deceiving, but in any event, there's no question that the inventory has already risen, and it'll probably continue to do so through probably all of 2023, if not certainly the first half and going into the second half.
So let's talk about the different inputs that go into this. So you have supply and demand, which is kind of, the tier one of understanding this picture. You also have interest rates, which is opposite from what we see in consumer markets that we see in the business jet. Actually, when cash is more valuable, financing options become more attractive, not less attractive. So as risk-free rates rise, a lot of these folks are not buying aircraft in cash. Does that have any effect on overall pricing in the business jet market?
It's hard to say. A lot of these clients are case by case. Their financials are very complex. Some of it, a lot of clients finance based on their financial assets, which in a lot of cases is the stock market. And if you look at what's happened to that in probably the past year, the value of those assets has fallen quite a bit. So certainly the interest rates play into that, and the value of the cash, being more valuable will drive people to financing for sure. But I think it's more of a product of the uncertainty of all of it, driving people to hold off, not necessarily walk away from private aviation entirely, just sitting on the sidelines and waiting to see what the next 3, 6, 9 months holds.
So what that's doing is that's actually drying up some of that demand, which I guess Jerome Powell is having his way in pushing inflation down, because some of the factors of inflation are supply and demand. It's also some of this idea of credit and waiting on the sidelines to be able to see what's the profile of buyer that you see. Is it primarily those that use use personal aviation for pleasure that are sitting on the sidelines, or is it also some of those businesses that sit on the fence and maybe they're going to choose to charter use fractional for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's across the board. Not much of a difference. Pretty much everybody is at least, if not holding off entirely, at least being much more diligent. And towards the first half of last year and even the latter half of 2021, you had people buying, just throwing caution into the wind, just throwing money at airplanes. And now, at the very least, across the board, whether it's private using for pleasure or a business owner or company using it for business purposes, really everyone is being at the very least way more cautious, way more diligent, and if not just waiting for 6 to 9 months. But there's probably not much of a difference between private individuals buying for pleasure or businesses for business use. It's across the board.
So how about those that, threw caution to the wind and went ahead and bought them? What are they looking at as far as, are they upside down on those investments? What are they thinking about? Is it one of those situations where they can just hold it forever, or not forever, but, relatively for a long time horizon, 7 to 10 years, and hope that either they get useful life out of it or it appreciates at some point? Or some of those that bought in H1 of this year, are they upside down on their airplanes, metaphorically speaking, not physically speaking?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That'd be something, wouldn't it? Yes. So a lot of people will be upside down if they're not already, but you had so much cash flooded into the system in, last year and the year before, well, really ever since COVID. And even though values may be lower, a lot of people still have a ton of equity. The folks that I think are probably, the most concerning, department are people who chase the charter market, buying airplanes at high prices on thin margins. And now that their rates are rising, fuel's rising, those people I think are in a little bit of a dangerous category, because as charter demand falls, many of those people were operating on slim margins to begin with. Those people could be forced to selling, which will drive up inventory and lower prices. But a lot of that is almost impossible to predict. But I would say that the people who bought airplanes for charter use on slim margins are the most at risk for being upside down on their mortgages, basically, on their loans.
So what happens if one of the big players crumbles? There is probably 4 major operators out there that if their entire fleet hit the market today would really cause some concerning times. And we're rolling through in Q1 here of 23. I still hear people debating whether we're in a recession. I think that is probably at this point a non-contentious issue, and we may not even have felt the full effects in the charter market. If one of those big players crumbles and their inventory all of a sudden floods the market, what does that mean for the rest of the industry? Is there going to be another large player that sees that as an opportunity, or does it just drive everybody's prices down and might have a domino effect?
Sure. Can you still hear me?
I can, yep. Can you hear us?
Okay, very good. Yeah, so I guess some of it has to do with, if a domino were to fall, which one is it? Certainly you have a lot of the big companies are really well positioned. So for instance, NetJets, if you had a smaller player fall, you might see bigger players come in and try to scoop them up. You're going to drive down. I don't know that any one charter company has such a disproportionate share of the market that it's going to cause any kind of mass event. That seems to be a little unlikely to me. But you certainly could have pockets where that happens. Like, for instance, some operators operate Citation 10s, like a bunch of Citation 10s. If you had an issue where an operator went under and it forced into a given market, like a model market, you could have severe down pressure in pockets. Maybe not necessarily broadly, but certainly market by market. And the one that comes to mind, Mountain Aviation, which I think was bought out by Wheels Up, they operate a lot of Citation 10s. And if you saw a situation where all of those had to be liquidated, I'm not saying that will happen at all, but if it did, it would drive down prices in that market, but it probably wouldn't spill over to anything else beyond that.
So essentially, a lot of these charter operators that are very model contingent, I know that there are some that like to fly the XLS. There's a few that, like to fly in the Gulfstream family. And so, but that wouldn't necessarily affect outside of those models because they're so concentrated. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, the market is really large, and even the largest charter operators aren't really, are going to be effectively a drop in the bucket. However, if you happen to own an airplane or operate an airplane in a market where someone does have a large presence, like the XLSs, like you mentioned, or whatever it may be, it could have a really big impact in those markets, no doubt. But I don't know that it would trickle out to anything beyond that, just because the market is so large.
Tyler, it has been super helpful to have your firsthand opinion. If they want to find out more about you or learn about your company, where can they go?
avskyjets.com is our website, and they can pretty much find out anything they'd like to know about us from there, and our contact information is there.
Awesome, Tyler. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll check in to see how much these predictions come through in the second half of this year.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyler.
All right.
Thank you both.
We're going to go ahead and recap our news up on flyingmag.com to finish out your show today. Starting off with news from Washington, where President Joe Biden has renominated Philip Washington to fill the administrator role of the Federal Aviation Administration after months of stalled out Senate proceedings. The nomination was originally made last July to fill Stephen Dixon's role after he abruptly announced his retirement last February. Billy Nolan has served as acting administrator since April of last year. And Washington has previously served as the CEO of Denver International Airport. However, he's never been a pilot, an industry exec, or worked in the U.S. Air Force. Archer Aviation says that it has entered into an agreement with international car maker Stellantis to set up manufacturing facilities for mass production of the Archer Midnight eVTOL aircraft in 2024. The announcement could push forward widespread adoption of eVTOL use as it outlines a concrete plan for mass manufacturing. Stellantis will help Archer prepare its facility in Covington, Georgia, to begin turning out the Midnight aircraft, which is a development on the company's prototype called the Maker. Midnight is expected to be able to carry a pilot and 4 passengers over a range of up to 100 miles. And Innovative Solutions and Support has announced it has gained FAA approval for its ThrustSense auto throttle for Beechcraft King Air 200 and 300 models, equipped with the Garmin G1000 standard flight deck. The ThrustSense serves as an active co-pilot through most phases of flight, adjusts engine inputs to ensure airspeed, and add protection from takeoff to touchdown. And you can find those headlines by heading on over to flyingmag.com. And while you're there, give us a subscribe to get updates sent directly to you. Of course, you can also follow Flying Magazine on all social media. And Preston, we're done here for the day, but we've got exciting things coming up for Flying Magazine.
We are absolutely. At the end, we are giving away an Icon A5. So go to flyingmag.com/giveaway. We really want to celebrate general aviation and inspire those to learn how to fly. And so you can can win your very own Icon A5, flyingmag.com/giveaway. All the rules are there, all that good legal stuff. But if you are a subscriber, you automatically get one entry. And if you are if you give a gift, you get an additional entry up to 10 gifts. So no purchase required, yada, 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 all that good stuff, so that the lawyers are happy with that. So anyways, check it out, flyingmag.com/giveaway.
All right, thank you guys for sticking with us today. Go ahead and subscribe, follow us on social media, and we'll see you next time on Business Area TV.